Now, today, we have conflicting stories all over. Some of the front pages are this contention that the story is all rubbish. Now, what is strange about this is that suddenly this alleged vulnerable crack addict teenager has a very expensive lawyer.
Yes. That's interesting, isn't it, itself?
Suddenly. Why did this vulnerable teenager not say anything earlier? Why suddenly does this vulnerable teenager have an expensive lawyer? And this lawyer doesn't seem to grasp the nature of this story. He's saying it's all rubbish. Now, the real important accusation that these parents are making is, of course, partly the kind of alleged crime, the corruption of this young child with money. But it's partly that we went to the BBC on May the 19th and we said, save our son.
And spent a considerable amount of time talking to them and explaining the story to them for what they say is about a period of about an hour. So it's not as if it's a quick phone call and they go, oh, OK, thanks very much indeed, we'll get back to you. They spend an hour presumably talking to somebody reasonably senior who took down all the details of what was said. The other thing that I find extraordinary...
but then, this is the most important thing, then the reason they went to The Sun last week was for 7 weeks, they say, the BBC did absolutely nothing. Now, this lawyer who's going around saying it's all rubbish, I want his explanation of what it was the BBC was doing for 7 weeks, because that is at the centre of the charges against the BBC, that they got these very serious accusations and they did nothing about it in their time-honoured fashion.
And yet, once they did see the heat coming from the media, i.e. The Sun, they suddenly suspend the guy, which hadn't happened before. Now, the other thing that I find interesting is that the lawyer's kind of statement of how there was nothing inappropriate or illegal taking place. What that does not say is that there was nothing taking place. What he means is that there was something taking place, but I'm telling you that it wasn't illegal and it wasn't inappropriate. Well, as far as inappropriate, I think we'll be the judge of that, won't we?
Yeah, we will. And this is centering on alleged criminality. Now, if this kid was paid for these pictures when
under the age of 18.
Kid was under the age of 18, when that kid was, say, 17, then that's against the law. So this male star will have perpetrated a crime. And therefore there will be a police investigation, and if it's true, he'll end up getting convicted. So that's very, very important. If the law was broken, that, of course, is heinous. However, if he didn't give the kid any money until after the kid was 18. By the way, we're not mentioning the gender of the kid, even, by the way. That's why we're using this circuitous language. If he didn't give the kid any money until the kid was after the age of 18, then that's not against the law, but I say I don't want people like that on the telly.
No,
I don't want the state broadcaster taking my £159.50 and dividing it up among people like this male star, because whether or not he broke the law, that is a sordid and depraved thing to do.
Well, also,
and you can get off my TV screen.
Yeah, but also this kind of ludicrous, once again, you know, divisive nature of the arguments, so that if you're a left-winger and you call yourself a socialist, you basically want the BBC to have done nothing wrong. You want the Sun to have done everything wrong. And that's kind of the way it's playing out on social media, which is very bizarre in and of itself. But also, the idea that somehow illegality is the bar has got nothing to do with it.
No, it's not.
Because,
absolutely
look at what happened to Philip Schofield. Philip Schofield left.
Didn't break the law.
ITV didn't break any laws, as far as we know. He certainly didn't admit to breaking any laws. They didn't say he broke any laws, but he's still gone. And there's a reason for that, because what he was doing was not, shall we say, the savoury nature of daytime television. And the same goes for this high-profile presenter. Somebody in a high-profile position. It's wrong for lawyers to say things like, well, he hasn't done anything wrong, it's his private life. Well, it's not his private life, because in every media company, as in lots of other media companies, if you're high-profile, you are basically tied to a contract which says you mustn't bring the company into disrepute. Now, I think you can argue that whatever has happened here, the BBC has been brought into disrepute.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what went wrong with Philip Schofield. He didn't break the law, but he was deemed to have behaved very inappropriately and to have used his wealth and fame to corrupt this young person.
Yeah.
It wasn't illegal, but it was wrong.
Right.
And that's the nature, that's the crux of this story.
Right.
It's not about whether or not this guy broke the law. It's about whether or not what he did was wrong, was morally wrong.
Exactly.
And if these charges are true, I don't care if the kid was 17 or 18. That was morally wrong, and I don't want that scumbag on my TV screens. Thank you very much.
Paid for by taxpayers' money. Yeah. The other issue, of course, is the naming of the individual, because we're going to be a parliamentary.
Let's do that.
There's going to be there's going to be a parliamentary hearing coming up in the House of Commons. Now, there is precedent for this. You can say somebody's name in this kind of situation in the House of Commons and protect yourself with privilege, right? Whether or not it then gets repeated outside is another matter. You got Tim Davie, as you say, having this rather odd press conference. For some reason, the BBC can't muster the ability to actually get some cameras into a room and some journalists into a room. He's doing it all on Zoom.
Yeah.
I mean, who made that decision? And why do they keep getting it wrong?
We'll have to look into whether his last press conference for his annual report was done on Zoom. My suspicion is it probably wasn't.
No.
But, of course, this is going to be a difficult day for Tim Davie. It continues to be a very difficult situation for the BBC.
Yes.
And, by the way, The Sun today, which, of course, broke the story, is splashing all over its front page. You got it there. It says, Dad...
the BBC are liars.
The BBC are liars.
There we go.
Now, The Sun, I know, have got a lot of evidence, and they are very happy with this story. So the BBC and all these lawyers saying it's not true, he's done nothing wrong. Be a bit careful here, guys.
Yeah.
Be a bit careful.
Yes.
And a memo to the Star at the centre of this storm, you be a bit careful.
Exactly,
because this could get worse for you.
Because if I was on the other side of this lawyer who suddenly emerged yesterday, when you would have thought if somebody was going to deny the story, they would have denied it on Saturday rather than waiting until Monday. If the lawyer says the story is rubbish, I'd be saying, well, which bits of it are rubbish? Which bits are you saying are rubbish? Exactly.
That's exactly
You can't just blanket say it's all rubbish without denying that they even know each other.
Yeah. And the way the papers, all the papers, so many of the papers have just fallen for it.
Yeah.
You know, the Daily Mirror, pathetically.
Oh, yes. Yes, this is good.
I can't believe we used to work for this.
I know.
I mean, this is how not to sell newspapers, folks.
Here we go.
They put on the front page. Here we go.
The BBC have done
nothing wrong. Now read on. What a great headline.
Yeah,
God almighty. Did they have any journalists working on the Daily Mirror?
No, they all left years ago.
Yeah, they all got fired.
Yeah, they're all working
just
here.
in time for Christmas. They're all working here like you and me. So we'll leave that hanging on the air.
Well, I'll tell you what, shall we move on now?
Yes,
because
absolutely.
There's lots of other stories going on.
We haven't heard the last of it, though.
We need
all
to
day.
talk about, don't worry, all day. In fact, we may have to seek Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan's guidance a bit later on.